Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. One of the major themes of the book of Matthew, if not the theme of the book of Matthew, is that of Jesus as king. And Matthew goes through a lot of detail and a lot of time showing us that Jesus is king. The very first verse of Matthew shows him as the son of David, the Messiah. He could have just went straight into saying that he was the son of Abraham, but he specifically mentions that he's the son of David. And then the genealogy goes through and follows that lineage through the kings, and showing that Jesus was of the lineage of the kings, even going back to David. And then you have in chapter 2 the whole discussion, who is the king of the Jews? Herod was called the king of the Jews, but then these magi come in and they come looking for the king of the Jews, as though it's somebody else. And then there's the whole controversy that comes with that. You have John the Baptist as the one going before the king to pronounce the coming of the king. And he's pronouncing that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And he's like the people like you might see in the movie who go into the castle first before the king to blow the trumpet and to announce the king is coming. And then the king comes in. That's kind of what John the Baptist did. He pronounced the coming Messiah, the one whom he wasn't even worthy to unlatch the thong of the sandal. He is the one who proclaimed about Jesus, and that was a whole picture of a king coming. And then Jesus himself proclaimed the kingdom of heaven. He gave the Sermon on the Mount, which many believe to be the constitution of the kingdom of heaven. It describes what type of people would make up the kingdom, what type of life they would live, what were the expectations of the people of the kingdom. But this was some teachings about the kingdom of heaven made by the king himself. And then the miracles that he demonstrates, he shows power over the demons, over Satan. He's able to bind the strong one, as he says. He's also has power over nature. He has power over people's own bodies and their health. He shows a lot of power and authority, and that's really brought to the forefront here in the Gospel of Matthew. And this becomes very important when we get to the reading that we get to today, because in our reading today, and this will continue on through tomorrow, we're going to come across some very controversial teachings by Jesus. We're going to see him teach on forgiveness, which can be a very difficult thing, a very challenging thing. We're going to see him also teach on divorce, a very controversial topic in his day and very controversial topic in our day. And we're also going to see him talk about money, which again is a very difficult teaching. And he kind of puts things in perspective in connection to money. And time and time again, there's these hard sayings. Even Jesus himself recognizes in connection to the divorce that it was a difficult teaching that he gave. He says, not all men can accept this statement, but only those whom it has been given. And the significance of this is that Matthew places these very difficult and challenging teachings by Jesus long after he's already presented Jesus as the king, as the one having authority, as the one who has the authority to tell us, hey, if you're going to follow me, you got to deny yourself, take up your cross and follow me. You've got to not live for yourself anymore, but you got to live for my cause and for the kingdom. And Matthew establishes the authority of Christ before he shows these difficult teachings. I think that's very important. Oftentimes we might struggle with the teachings of Jesus, and then later the teachings of the apostles in the New Testament and the epistles. We might struggle with these teachings, not so much that they're hard to understand or that they're difficult to interpret, but simply because we haven't quite made Christ Lord of our hearts yet. There's still a little bit of us that wants to resist what the scriptures are clearly teaching, because we haven't allowed Jesus to really take up the throne room of our heart. And that's something to remember. Before we go to scriptures and we want to interpret the scriptures correctly, we might look at the historical context, the literary context. We might try to dig into the original language and try to get the translation of certain words correct. before we do all that, first we got to establish the lordship of Christ. If we haven't established Christ as our Lord, if we haven't established him as our King, then it'll always be difficult for us to accept what's being taught. At least a lot of times it will be, especially when we come across things that really are difficult and really go against our natural tendencies. And so let's remember this. Let's remember that Jesus is King. He holds all authority. And as we have come to him and accepted him by faith, we also have accepted not only the forgiveness of sins, but also accepted his authority in our lives. And that should inform us when we go to the scriptures and read the scriptures and help us to interpret them correctly, but also to have the heart to live them out in our lives and to submit to him in that way. So the way that Matthew is structured is very important, and it's the way our hearts should be structured. First, establish Christ as King, then go to the Word, accept what is being taught, and go out and live it for his glory. So these are some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.